Earth, 510 million years ago. A place that would seem alien to most life today. The land appears more like the surface of Mars, with almost no life other than microbes and those that still need to return to water. But the oceans at this time are full of life, especially in the shallows. Much of it would look like it was pulled straight out of science fiction. Many are soft-bodied, like jellyfish, but hard-shelled arthropods and their relatives are common, such as the many species of crawling trilobites, scuttling along the seafloor and rocks, eating just about anything they come across. Others are free-floating, like the tiny ioxes, arthropods with taco-shaped shells that fill a range of roles from filter feeders to carnivores. Still more are purely carnivorous, like Anomalocaris, a vaguely scorpion-like predator that can crack open even the well-armored trilobites. But all are dwarfed by the region's largest carnivore. Undulating through the sunlit waters comes a true giant of the Cambrian. At a whopping 50 centimeters long is the truly unique Anomalocaris. These top-order carnivores dwarf most other complex life of this time, and have carved out the niche of top-order carnivore across the globe. Eerily, they glide through the water using the feather-like flaps that run along their bodies to propel and steer themselves. They are on the hunt, and are well equipped to do so, with large compound eyes giving them visual acuity similar to that of modern dragonflies. Using these, they can make out anything that could be suitable as prey. Swimming close to the seabed, trilobites scurry for cover, but they have little to fear. Anomalocaris catch prey using the long coiled appendages at the front of their head, which grip and pull animals towards their circular mouth. But large, armored animals are too tough for Anomalocaris. They have no means to break through thick carapace armor, and prefer to go after soft or small prey. With the incredible eyesight and quick grasping feelers, they aren't just the largest predators of the time, but some of the most efficient as well. One of the strange arthropods seems to be floating peacefully through the current when it flicks upwards, rotating its body in a backward spin. As it does so, its appendages lash out and catch something thin and almost translucent. Completing its spin and returning to an upright position, the Anomalocaris holds a worm-like animal in its grip. This is actually an early relative of vertebrates, a rare sight of this time that will soon give rise to the first families of fish. The Anomalocaris maneuvers the morsel into its mouth and sucks up his first meal of the day, already eyeing the surrounding area for his next catch. Another of the predators goes after a swarm of isoxes, propelling straight through the tiny swimmers, sending many of them spiraling in all directions from his wake. A few get caught up in the fine spines that jut out from the Anomalocaris' coiling appendages. They wriggle desperately to escape, and their captor struggles to pass each of the tiny prey up into his mouth. The last one escapes, but is immediately caught and devoured just like the rest. In the more open areas, a different struggle is underway, the struggle to reproduce. A female is surrounded by several males who are trying to get her attention. Females are several times the size of the males, and they can easily outswim the males if they aren't interested. But she is casually observing each of the small males as they circle in a figure of 8, showing off the spots on their backs. In all likelihood, she will simply spawn when she is ready, and any males still present will get the opportunity to fertilize her eggs. Throughout the many shallow seas and sunlit waters of the Cambrian, the various species of Anomalocaris are common sights. They may inhabit an almost alien world, but the cycle of life and death, predator and prey, and evolution itself is ever present, no matter how much the world changes. Hello fellow travellers, and welcome back. Today we will be breaking down one of the Cambrian's most famous residents, Anomalocaris. The very first remains of Anomalocaris were found in the British Columbia of Canada, all the way back in 1886, but only the front appendages were found and given the name Anomalocaris canadaensis. The species name being after the country was discovered, and the genus name meaning anonymous shrimp, though its intended meaning was meant to be unlike other shrimp. From there, over a century of misidentification and revisions began, and to quote from the 1989 book Wonderful Life by Stephen Jay Gould, the story of Anomalocaris is a tale of humor, error, struggle, frustration, and even more error, culminating in an extraordinary resolution that brought together bits and pieces of three phyla in a single recognized creature, the largest and fiercest of Cambrian organisms. You see, different body parts of Anomalocaris were thought to have been different animals, including the appendages, body, and even the mouth. It wasn't until multiple examples of these separate animals all being found together again and again that it clicked that this was just one very unique looking creature. In addition, after getting a better picture of what Anomalocaris actually was, multiple species would be assigned to the genus, but almost all of which would be later found to be different genera or even different families. Currently, only A. canadaensis and A. delliae from Australia are valid, yet there are multiple unnamed species that could be unique, or just be these two species. Anomalocaris was a radiodont, which were marine stem arthropods that lived from the Cambrian to the Devonian. Anomalocaris itself lived from the early to middle Cambrian between 520 to 499 million years ago, and has been found in Canada, the US, China, and Australia. The two species varied in size, with canadaensis getting to between 34 and 37 centimeters in length, and delliae getting to between 34 and 51 centimeters in length. This is length of the body and does not include the frontal appendages or the tail fan. This may seem rather small, but for a Cambrian animal it was huge, dwarfing almost any other creature from that time period. Like other radiodonts, Anomalocaris' body had multiple sections or lobes that gave its armored form more flexibility, as well as being more maneuverable than other arthropods with less lobes or more covering armor. 3 of the lobes form the neck, around 13 form the body, and an unknown amount form the tail, though these could have been one section or multiple fused so tightly they looked like a singular section. From the lobes came the wing-like flaps that extended in pairs from each side. Starting at the very first on the neck, each flap sat below the next, so that all except the last one had at least half their width covered on their upper side by the preceding flap. Since Anomalocaris moved through the water by undulating its body up and down like a wave, the flaps would move together almost like a singular fin. This is a way of swimming designed for energy efficiency and stability. This also made the animal quite agile for its time, excellent for a top-order Cambrian predator. The tail was made up of 3 additional pairs of flaps that created a fan-like shape, used for steering. On a final note of the body, the gills ran all along the top of the lobes in sets of line-like structures, as seen in this diagram. Now onto the unique head, starting with the eyes. We know exactly what Anomalocaris' eyes look like thanks to some extremely well-preserved fossils from the Emu Bay Shell Formation on Kangaroo Island, Australia. They sat on stalks and were compound eyes with up to 24,000 lenses, giving it incredible visual acuity similar to that of dragonflies and mantis shrimp. Being on stalks also gave it a wide field of view, making it very hard for prey to hide from it. The mouth of an Anomalocaris is called an oral cone. It was circular and composed of several tooth-like plates, including 3 large main plates, several medium-sized plates, and a large amount of smaller plates. Now we move on to those eye-catching head appendages, or limbs as they are sometimes referred to. These were located at the front underside of the head in front of the mouth, and were divided in up to 14 segments called podomeres. Most of these podomeres had a pair of spines called endites, and most endites had additional spines jutting out from them, varying in size and number depending on the species and location of each individual endite along the limb. Anomalocaris has routinely been labelled the first superpredator, and though other older species that could have fit that role have been found, it's a good title that fits such a unique animal. But what it was thought to have hunted has changed over the years, especially whether or not it could or couldn't crack open hard-shelled prey like the numerous trilobite species. Originally, it was assumed that the, by contrast, giant Anomalocaris would just grab anything in its flexible appendages and either swallow them whole or break them open to suck out the soft parts. One very interesting theory even proposed that an Anomalocaris would grab a trilobite by each end with its appendages and then pull it back and forth over its oral cone to exploit the weaknesses of the armor, causing rupturing. Nowadays, it is thought that Anomalocaris was more commonly hunting soft body prey. The evidence for this comes from the appendages and the oral cone. For one, the oral cone wasn't capable of producing a strong bite, for lack of a better word, and was more designed for suction feeding, not crushing or tearing. The endites on each podomere, while not fragile, weren't strongly built either, and would have been at risk of breaking if it had to hold onto struggling hard-shelled prey. Of all the Anomalocaris specimens found, only one has been found with any damage on the endites. From this, we can speculate that Anomalocaris rarely went after large, armoured prey, as they were too risky and it didn't have the tools to effectively break them open. But that didn't mean it was restricted just to soft-body prey. Small creatures that could be scooped up by its appendages and then sucked up through the oral cone were likely fair game as well. With its incredible eyes, it may have been capable of predictive target interception, when a predator can calculate where the prey will move along a trajectory and then position their body or body parts to intercept the prey along that trajectory. This is seen in modern dragonflies and robberflies, those being some of the most, if not the most, successful hunters in terms of the percentage of times they catch their prey. If Anomalocaris did indeed have this sort of hunting behaviour, it may have not only been the largest predator of the Cambrian, but also potentially its most efficient and deadly. From all this, we can see Anomalocaris isn't the 1 meter trilobite massacring monster it was a decade or so ago. It is still a fascinating and incredible creature that we continue to learn more about. Chipping away and getting a better look at its anatomy, and how it lived in an ocean that was so old, it's hard to differentiate it from some otherworldly sci-fi novel. It's a creature that has caught the eye of many people for decades now, because of its fascinating appearance, and the previously mentioned title of Earth's first superpredator. But I hope I've shown it was much more than that. A fast, graceful, precise and strange creature that gives us a look back at a time period almost lost to us. And we should be grateful just the remains of Anomalocaris have survived for over 500 million years. But what do you think of Anomalocaris? And my question of the week: does this animal strike you as a potential filter feeder as well? What lesser known Cambrian creature would you like me to do a breakdown on next? And until then, please like, share, subscribe, and thank you for watching.